I have so many things that I want to ask you. I'm so curious and have so many questions because you wear so many hats, and this is what that podcast is about. So
Yeah.
I first want to hear about baby Bridget. Tell me your story.
Oh my God. I have to say, sometimes I stop and think, and I don't know about your, like, how you look at your journey, but I'm always surprised by why I chose this journey, like why I wanted
Hmm.
to get into media, because I was, as a kid, incredibly insecure and shy. But I
Me
think, sorry,
too.
now that
Me
I'm
too.
talking out loud and listening to myself, you too. You too. I wonder
Yes.
if it's us knowing, being mindful enough that we were shy and awkward and maybe insecure, that we knew to put ourselves out there in order
Out
to
there.
break that cycle.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was incredibly shy as a kid, but I loved to perform. And I feel like that's such a weird dichotomy because you usually think shy, people that don't want to be on
Yep.
stage, don't want to do things, but I always wanted to
Totally.
perform. I always wanted to act. I always wanted to be in front of a crowd. But if it was something like just being in like a classroom and raising your hand, like I had
Yeah,
to
yeah,
think
yeah.
through that more, if that makes sense. Like
Right. Yeah.
it's so weird though that you can be still the shy person growing up, but still want to do something like journalism
Totally.
or hosting or something that is the
Yeah.
opposite of that in some ways.
Well, I think like, now that we're talking about it, I think it was like me just wanting to break out of that mold, break out of that cycle of feeling that way, because it just it's a limiting belief, and it's also a limiting way to live. So,
Yeah.
as a kid, super super shy, very insecure, but I think that's common as an only child. And I grew up with a refugee father and an immigrant mother, and so not really knowing my parents' lived experiences as a kid, I felt it. I felt the anxiety in a home where my dad was, a POW, like he was a prisoner of war. My parents fled the Vietnam War, and so even though we didn't talk about it, there was that lived anxiety within the house. And so growing up was just very much, um, this is how you live, this is how you get respect from other people, and then that's it. And so I just worked hard in school, and I always knew I wanted to get into hosting, but I wasn't sure in what capacity. um, I knew interviewing was always something that intrigued me. Like, this is what you and I are lucky enough to get to do on a daily basis, but as a kid, my mom learned English via Entertainment Tonight, like Mary Hart, John Tesh, Bob Goen, that old entertainment crew. And so
Yes.
growing up, it was very much a being raised by the television, being raised by entertainment, but not knowing exactly why I was super into it. And so, yeah, as a kid was just like finding my own way, like a lot of teenagers, breaking out of this insecure, shy mold, and having like this weird fascination with the television screen.
You said that your father was a prisoner of war.
Yeah, so my parents are from Vietnam. We're Chinese, but communism in China drove my grandparents out to Vietnam, and then communism drove them over to Canada. But in the early to mid 70s, my father became a prisoner of war. And unfortunately, it was just due to communism and the position he was in. My grandfather was incredibly wealthy. He's one of 10 of the wealthiest men in Vietnam at the time, had multiple businesses. And so when everything was confiscated by the communist government, so were his sons. My father came from a family of seven children, eight including him. And him and his brothers fled on foot because they didn't want to fight for their country. They were just too terrified. Unfortunately, the government found them, and they were locked up. Him and his youngest brother were locked up for about 18 months in a hard labor camp. And
Wow.
I didn't learn about the details until I was 28, and I sat my dad down and I just frankly asked him, "Tell me about this story. I know that you have lived a really tough life." So that's when we both sat down, had this heart to heart. We both cried, and he told me his entire experience of being, 13 years old, held at this labor camp, doing hard labor every single day, sleeping on the ground with I don't know how many other men and boys, eating bread and rice every day for 18 months until they were freed. And then when him and his brother were freed, my grandmother was still in Vietnam at the time. They fled on a boat to Indonesia for salvation. And this was truly a boat story, Steph, where they didn't eat anything for days on their journey to Indonesia. They saw people dying from malnutrition. They saw people dying from suicide, throwing themselves overboard. So the things that he's gone through and seen have really translated into his philosophies and teachings over time. And so I grew up in a home of, like I mentioned, a lot of anxiety and fear for good reason. Through therapy, I understand why, but also teachings of you have one life to live. So make something of this, Bridge. And I really take that to heart. We really do have one life to live, and it's important, if we live in a free country like we do, to really take a hold of it, believe in ourselves, and spend every day the way that we want to, because we have the ability to do so. What a gift.
Did you grow up in the Toronto area?
I did, yeah. So born and raised in Toronto. Have you visited Toronto before?
So I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan. So Toronto is literally a
girl.
4 to 6 hour drive. I would go on field trips to Toronto. So yes, I am familiar.
No way.
Yeah.
So like pretty much neighbors. Yeah. Toronto is such a great entertainment hub. A lot of productions come through here, a lot of concerts come through here. And so it really has been a great playground for me to foster my creativity and this freelance media career that I've been living for quite some time now.
And you said that you wanted to be in the hosting realm even from a young age. Did you see people on television that looked like you growing up?
I love this question because no, I didn't. I think growing up, if I were to grow up now, I'd see definitely a lot more. But growing up, girl, it was very much Connie Chung. Do you remember Connie Chung?
Yes, I have her book. Have you read her book yet?
I haven't read her book, no. But like, to talk about today's show, Connie Chung was a staple.
Amazing.
Connie Chung, Jackie Chan, obviously, who went international. But those were really and Ann Curry. Ann Curry, I believe, is half Japanese. But no, it was very rare. In Toronto, certainly like nobody. So it was very much looking at hosts and media personalities from the States. Those were like my North Stars.
And when you were growing up as a child, you said that your parents, you knew something had happened to your dad, but it wasn't really talked about, but you just kind of had this overwhelming sense of that. Did that fuel your motivation to make something of yourself when you got older?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh, yeah. Because I saw just how much my parents struggled, more so my dad, on the mental health side of things, but also in his career path. Because they were dealt a really tough deck of cards from the get-go. As children, we're very privileged because of my grandparents' success. The government and the communist government took that all away at a very young age. And so from their teenage years onwards, very much cards were against them. And so I grew up in a house with both of my parents really struggling with paycheck to paycheck, job to job, because they didn't speak English well. They didn't have the education that, you need to have a really great career in Canada. So without the education, without the language, it was very much blue collar jobs. So seeing that struggle firsthand, financially, mentally, emotionally, just always reminded me from a young age to really set myself up for success, whatever way that I can, because I didn't want to repeat that cycle for my own kids, but also I wanted to make my parents proud because I didn't want them to struggle for the rest of their lives. So yeah, their upbringing, their experiences have played a massive role in I think my ambition and how I just continue to go for it.
Were your parents always receptive of you wanting to go into a position and a job like this?
No. I think that's why I went to university for psychology and communications, because it was very much, the old immigrant mentality of you got to get a job with a title. because
Right.
then you can never be laid off. You get a good living. People respect you. Da 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 da. So I would say for the first few years of my education post grad, very much no, do not go down the television route.
You probably felt that way too. You probably, from your parents' upbringing, felt like maybe I do need to do something a little more stable.
For sure. Yeah. And even like the early years of my freelancing career where it was a real struggle, I thought, oh, what am I doing? Like, what am I really doing here? I really got to find something more stable. Um, but in my heart of hearts, I just knew that there was so much more to life than just, what I'm being told to do. So they struggled with it for, I think, the beginning of my career. And now, no, they never bring it up because they see that I pay my own bills and I am fortunate enough to do really fun things. And so they've kind of backed off a bit.
Yeah, and let's talk about that because you, like I said earlier, wear so many different hats. You're a producer, you're a content creator, you're a host. How did that all come to fruition? How did you start your journey? Did you start in a very traditional way, going to journalism school? Like, how did that all begin?
Totally. Yeah. When you and I were coming up, social media was not a thing. So it was very, like that structured path, right? So you go, okay, what do I have to do to get there? Journalism school. But before I went to journalism school, I actually took psychology and comms in university because I was just super fascinated with how people navigate the world and with each other. But then I realized, oh, I got to put in more years after this in order to get some kind of psychology career. I was like, nah, I'm okay. So I did the whole university thing and then went to college for journalism school. But before I even went to journalism school stuff, I was that eager beaver. So I started volunteering and interning at local television stations. As a kid, I got my first talk show at 19, like daily talk show. So that was a nice way
Wow.
to, try the whole live thing when you're still coming up. So that was my first
Yeah.
live experience, was a live daily talk show at 19. And then just, hopping around from network to network in Canada until about 2013 stuff, I realized, oh, this is a point in my life where I can try something completely different, which was I got laid off for the first time being full time in TV. Yeah. And I thought, okay,
Wow. Tell
I
me
can
about
either
that.
try this freelancing thing. Girl, 2013, I think this was a time where freelancing was still known as fun employment. And so when
Mm.
I got laid off from my full-time television gig, I was hosting an entertainment show and hosting mixed martial arts, like UFC,
Wow.
boxing. Yeah, so two shows at the same time under the same network. I was like, oh my God, nobody wants to work with me. This must be me. It must be my fault that I'm laid off. So my ego took a big hit, and I thought I can either stay in this rat race, if you will, and try to find a new full-time network job, or I can take my stab at this freelancing media thing and venture into the digital space and see what happens. Because at the time, brand partnerships, social media, all that stuff wasn't as big in Canada. And so I just thought, okay, I can either roll the dice on myself and try something new, or I can try to find something in full-time media. So I rolled the dice, and here we are. We're still doing it. We're still rolling that dice.
Yeah. I mean, what gave you the confidence to say, hey, I'm going to try this freelance life? Because that can be really scary.
Incredibly scary. I think it's still scary to this day, to be honest. But I remember just thinking, you know what? I feel this burning desire within me to try this freelancing thing. I was so curious about it at the time because I wasn't the only one who was getting laid off from full time TV. I saw it with a couple of peers at other networks. And I remember thinking or noticing how quickly the landscape was changing at the time. You're like, ooh, the internet is creeping up real, real fast with the content game. There are many different ways to reach people now and deploy our stories. Maybe this is a sign for me to try something new. So, incredibly scared, didn't really have the confidence that I thought at the time, but clearly I did because I rolled the dice and I went for it. It was scary. It was super, super scary. But I put on my networking hat. I remember I had like $1,500 in my savings account and I was living on my own at the time. So I thought, okay, if I'm not getting any gigs to pay for my bills, I'm eating cereal. Like I was in it to win it, Steph. I don't know what it was inside of me, but I was just thought, okay, if TV is not doing so well in Canada, I got to protect myself and try something new.
So let's talk about your routine, because is each day the same? I would imagine it's kind of all over the place, but what would a week look like for you?
That is a great question. I would say that no, it's not the same by any means. And it works for me, but I would say that for most people, it probably would really throw them off because even though I'm used to it, Steph, there are many weeks when I look at myself and I go, oh my gosh, this just isn't normal for your brain. But a given week is quite different. So I am a morning show contributor here in Toronto. It's a national morning show, one of the biggest out there, which is great. So a couple days I'm a live eye correspondent in the morning. And then a couple days I join them in studio for like live chats. So 3 to 4 days a week in the mornings, I'm with this morning show. But
And
then
that's
I'm
breakfast
also a
television.
behind the scenes producer, a behind the scenes. Exactly, breakfast television, yeah. And then I'm also a behind the scenes digital producer for films and shows that are shot here in Canada, or Toronto, I should say. I shouldn't kind of give it that big blanket, but in Toronto. So right now I'm producing on a Peacock show, but I'm also producing Law and Order Toronto's digital assets. So I might be on set twice a week. So after the morning show, I might come home, take a nap, and then I'm going to run out to set, and I'm usually there for about 12 hours. So they're super long days. Yeah. And then there could be like a branded partnership thrown in for social media or another hosting gig. So every week it's kind of all over the place. And I often ask myself, what am I going to do when I become a mom? Like, this isn't conducive to mom life at all, at all. And then on weekends, I
Not at
usually
all.
record my podcast. Not at all, no.
And speaking of your podcast, talk about, it's called Homegirl Nation, correct? Tell
Correct.
me about
Yeah.
it.
Um, So, Steph, I started Homegirl Nation kind of out of necessity. This was in 2020. I was in lockdown, like many of us were, and I was locking down in a 500 square foot apartment at the time by myself and just trying not to go crazy. But like a lot of people, a lot of women during that period, I felt wildly disconnected from myself because I was wildly disconnected from the world around me and my peers. And so it was during the time too where the show that I was reporting on came to an end. It was canceled. So I thought, oh crap, okay, another show cancellation. What do I do here? Do I hustle and find another freelance gig on another show? Or do I maybe start my own? And then if I start my own, oh my gosh, this might help my mental health at the time. So that this allows me to connect with women again. It connects me with issues I care about. So that's where Homegirl Nation came about. I literally started it at home out of necessity, and it's all about the nitty gritties of womanhood. So this is the fifth season right now, and we've been just having so much fun exploring different topics that have to do with our sexuality, relationships, leadership, entrepreneurship, failures, with some really awesome talents like Kelly Rutherford, Kate Hudson, a lot of local Toronto leaders as well. So it's grown into a really nice little community, but based on necessity to begin with. I'm glad it's still happening.
Yeah, it's so much about self improvement. Do you have a self improvement tip
Yeah.
that you could give our listeners?
My biggest thing is just having the perspective that every day is a school day. You know, I've been doing this whole media stuff for about 17 years now, and people always ask me, like, why do you ask so many questions all the time? Why do you act like you don't know? It's because there's so many things I don't know. And I think that kind of, when you come at the mindset of curiosity and just being a student, life is super enriching as it goes on. And it just allows you the ability to evolve in whatever way you need to evolve. So I'd say look at life as a school day every day.
Yeah, and be open to those opportunities.
100%. 100%. And like fear will always be there. I live on fear and anxiety. I'm not proud to say that, but that's a combination that I drink every single day. But I tend to just still put it off to the side, knowing that that's just a common thing that we face, especially as ambitious women. So the more ambitious we are, the more like I think doubt can come into play and whatnot, but it's always going to be there. And I think it's we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we don't let fear, anxiety, all doubt, all those icky things motivate us instead of paralyze us.
Tell me about a day at breakfast television. That would be like the equivalent of Toronto's Today Show, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's fun. Like, I mean, it's tough though, right? You have to get up super
Mm-hmm.
early, which I don't know about you, it's certainly not for me. Like, I'm still getting used to it. But it's
Yeah.
really, really fun. It's got a cast of, I'd say, 6 regular faces. I'm usually the live eye correspondent, so I go out there and talk about like what's going on in not only our community, but just what's out there. And then I get to
Fun.
join the studio sometimes for entertainment chats and water cooler chats, and it's just fun. It's all about giving people a fun start to their day. That's really the objective. And given the times that we're living in, and I know for me, like just being an entrepreneur and having these ebbs and flows in life all the time, it's really, really nice to be a part of something that is anchored in fun. So I got kind of pinch myself every day when I do it.
For the woman that wants to become a correspondent one day, what are some skills that you think that woman needs to have?
Ooh, to be a correspondent. So a big part of being a correspondent, a live eye correspondent, is being able to just think quickly on your feet. It really is. Live TV is funny because like there's no do-over, right? And usually
Right.
it's just you and the camera and maybe a producer. So there's not a lot of support. It's really just dependent on you. So I would say just being really comfortable on your feet, and you have to get there. I think it's practice every single day. For me, it's I like to put myself in challenging positions all the time, not just in work, but put me in new environments, like network environments that I'm not used to, or in rooms where I don't know anybody. That's putting me on the feet. So that's just getting myself uncomfortable. I would say that's a good skill to have. And also showing up as yourself. What I love about this particular show, Steph, are the people that I work for constantly encourage me and remind me to be myself. Is that amazing? Like,
What a concept.
what? How? What? Seriously, what a concept, and really, what a gift. And so sometimes I remind myself not to be too polished because that's how society expects you to be. To show up as a polished version so that you're not judged for your flaws. So it's really nice to be a part of a morning show, and I think this might be the way across the board. It's just being comfortable with who you are, and if it's messy, if it's a little sloppy, that's okay. People relate to that.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes you need to peel back the layers and be that full version of yourself, which is a little bit different than journalism, where you are supposed to be a little bit
Yeah.
more polished. But then you go into hosting and it's like, whoa, no, show your flaws.
Show your flaws. And I mean, what you and I do, like, not to belittle in any way because it is really important stuff and it's fun stuff, but there's so many other people around the world that do it. Why do people continue to tune in, or why do people anticipate your stuff, right, Steph? Because of you, because of what you bring to the table and what you bring to the mic and what you bring to the content. So yeah, it's always a nice reminder to remind ourselves to just show up as you.
And you've interviewed a lot of big names. I've heard Drew Barrymore, Robert Pattinson. Like, do you have a
Yeah.
favorite interview you've done?
Yeah. So the one that always comes to mind, Steph, and because he was so kind, um, Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh,
I know, right? He is notorious for being one of the kindest actors out there, but truthfully, in my whole interviewing career, he's the only actor that I can think of who, when you walk into a room, into a junket room, which is kind of like, it's usually set up for our listeners out there who might not know, junkets are usually set up in a hotel room. And so that's when you have like 2 cameras set up, movie posters, and then the actor just stays in that hotel room and then reporters just come in 5 minutes at a time. It's like speed dating, but the actor doesn't
right.
move. The reporters just come in. So it's kind of exhausting for the talents. So I was in a junket, Daniel Radcliffe, The F Word was the movie in Toronto. And he's the only actor that stood up from out of his seat, to shake my hand, introduce himself. Hi, I'm Daniel. It's so nice to meet you. And I know that sounds silly and maybe standard practice and etiquette for anyone introducing each other, but you forget that these talents are kind of just in a different world. So to have that, consideration was so nice. And then he was a breeze for the rest of the interview, but lovely. Daniel Radcliffe.
For those that want to step away from the quote unquote, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type schedule and do what you do, they want to step out and venture out, do the freelance thing. And they're thinking, where the heck do I start?
I know.
What piece of advice would you give?
It can be such a daunting thought. And maybe even overwhelming, I would say. So I completely empathize with that. But I think the best place to start is honestly on your own channel. Truly, we live in such an amazing time where anyone and everyone can create their own personal brand, can create their own channel, own community, and voice. Uh, Unfortunately, when I was first starting in this landscape, didn't have that opportunity. So it was very much the traditional route and figuring out what step to take next. But here it's like a playground. You have so much autonomy. But I will say, as a friendly suggestion, to start anywhere, create your own channel, whether it's Instagram, whether it's a podcast, whether it's YouTube or TikTok. Because if you don't show, they won't know. That's what I always say. You don't show people what you like to talk about, what you're good at talking about, whatever your expertise is or your niche is, people don't know. So try to eliminate that fear or try to just work with that fear of either judgment, criticism, failure, just not being good enough. Try to work alongside that and do it anyway, because people need to see what you're capable of in order to give you opportunities.
I always say, if you're not talking about it, they don't know you exist.
That's it. That's exactly it. But I know it can be tough for anyone to start because of, X, Y, and Z. But yeah, people need to know what you're capable of.
To get your freelance gigs, did you have an agent? How did you go about finding those opportunities?
Yeah. So when I started freelancing, I was just a massive hustler on LinkedIn and a bunch of just other platforms, messaging people. I don't know how I was so ballsy. I would just message people to grab a coffee, to give me like a quick virtual chat, to even give me some advice over email, whatever it was. I just wanted to learn from people who were doing things that I wanted to do. And so I think, I still get those emails. It's kind of, the tables have kind of churned, which is super lovely to see. But I think don't be afraid to like put yourself out there in the sense that you're literally a student of other people. And you never know who those people know who might need help. Whether it's like a production assistant for the day or, an assistant ghostwriter, there just could be different avenues. You mentioned it earlier, Steph, is just saying yes to opportunities. There's nothing more important when you're starting a freelance career than saying yes to opportunities. Don't think you're above anything or you might not be good enough for something. Figure it out on the way. And so talking to people was a great way to get gigs, putting out content. Like I always say, you got to put in the work to get work. And even to this day as a solopreneur, even though I've been able to build a network and a roster of clients, you always want more work. And so it's constantly putting out the work on social media, putting out the content in order for the work to come back.
In addition to all of that, you are also a digital host for a USA Today digital series called Sister Cities, correct?
Yeah. Yes. We started in 2021, I believe. And speaking of, putting in the work to get work, or if you don't show, they don't know. USA Today found me on Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a video that I posted in 2021, Steph. I didn't even think twice about this video. It was during the height of anti-Asian hate over the pandemic. And I, as an Asian woman, felt really strongly about the violence that was going on, especially in North America, against Asian people, Asian communities, in regards to the narrative out there that, COVID was the China virus. And so I put out a video just kind of as a call to action to my fellow Asian community members, to stand up for yourselves, to really speak power to truth to power and say, no, this isn't right. So stop, sitting idly. Again, a video that I didn't put any thought into. It was just out of passion. And a producer who was looking to fulfill the American host role on Sister Cities, which is the show that I'm still with now, came across it. I don't know how. I don't know if they're looking at specific hashtags, but came across it. We met for a couple of meetings virtually, and then it really just worked out. So again, put your stuff out there. I can't say it enough, really.
Switching gears, do you ever deal with imposter syndrome?
Stuff all the time. Do you? Do you still deal with it?
Absolutely. I feel like
Yeah.
you're almost not normal if you don't, right?
It's so true. You nailed it. I would think so. I deal with it all the time. All the time. Like when I got breakfast television, I was like, what? Are you
All the
like
time.
me? Are you sure? Okay.
Right.
Every big job that comes up, I'll have a moment of like, what? Are you like, are we taking off a box or like, I constantly. But I think it's okay. And I think it's actually a good thing to operate with a level. I'm not saying a massive amount, but like a level of imposter syndrome because it keeps you humble and it keeps you kind of curious. How do I do better? How do I do well? How do I stand out? So I don't think it's a bad thing to have imposter syndrome.
For those that want to follow in your footsteps, what piece of advice would you give them?
Be open to it all. And when I say that, I mean be open to the joys of the ebbs and flows and the hardship, the mental anguish that can come from the ebbs and flows of entrepreneurship, building your own brand, being a freelance content creator and storyteller through different mediums. None of this has stability. But then you got to remember that life doesn't have stability. It rarely does. And so being open to it all will provide you with longevity in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no straight path. I talk to so many women,
None.
and you would think you would hear the A, B, C, D route, and it is never that way. Even though it looks like that from the outside, it really isn't.
I know, it really isn't. So that's something to be open-minded to as well, is that like your story stuff, certainly not the same as mine and vice versa, but we're both doing a lot of similar things. And so if there is somebody listening out there who is just super discouraged today, feeling like they've tried it all and they're still not getting to where they need to be, someone else will give up before you. And somebody already has. If you give up on yourself at this point, after putting in all the work, all that sweat, blood, and tears, it'd be a huge, I would say, just disadvantage to yourself because you don't know where that yes is coming from. It can come tomorrow. So please don't give up because no one has that linear path. No one.
And I talk a lot about identity on this podcast. My podcast title is I Am Not a Weather Girl, and that's because I am a meteorologist, but I'm also all these other things. I'm a reporter, I'm a mother, I'm a wife. I, do all these different things, and that's what makes me me. And you need all of those things to show up as your true authentic self and to show up as a leader and to show up as your own 100% true self. And that's what you're doing too. You're a producer, you're a reporter, you're a correspondent, you're all these different things. And you don't need to just say, well, I just do this one thing. You can do all of these things because that's what makes you you.
And how awesome to be able to do all these different things, right? Like for you to say, I am a mother, I am a wife, but I'm also all these other things. It's like what a privileged position to be in. So if that is
And
the
that's
position that you find
okay.
yourself in, totally okay. Yeah. But like if you are in a position to be able to wear all those hats and do all those things, why not? Like give yourself that chance, you know?
Exactly.
Mhm.
I do have my rapid fire that I want to get to.
Love it. Love it.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
Your coffee order.
Oh my God, I love coffee too much. Um, okay, so my coffee order really is these days just, and this is not exciting at all, an Americano with oat milk. That's it. I just need my caffeine. I don't need anything extra with it. Just give me some oat milk with my Americano.
It's so funny you say that because everyone I interview is always like, it's really boring. It's really not exciting.
It's not. We just need the hit. We need the quick hit.
We do. And
Yeah.
I once saw a study that said that journalists drink more coffee than any other profession. And I was like, yeah, that tracks.
Oh my gosh, is that true?
I mean, it was on one study anyway.
I mean, yeah, I can attest to that. I drink way too much. Way too much.
So funny. Your favorite travel destination?
I want to say Italy. I love Italy so much. I know. Oh, would love to go back right now, but my husband's Irish, so we go back to Ireland about twice a year. And when you're in Europe, it's just so different in North America stuff, hey? Like when you're in Europe, it's so easy to get from country to country.
Right.
Oh my God, it's so easy. So Italy for sure. It's the best.
Do you have a preference? Northern Italy, Southern Italy?
I would say like
You like
my
all of
personal
it?
all of it. All of it, please. My favorite always is Siena, Tuscany. Yeah, it's just so quiet. Nature, birds, pasta.
Your favorite restaurant?
Oh, my favorite restaurant. Okay, hard to choose one, but my one of my favorite restaurants is Colipe. It's in Toronto, Thai, multiple Michelin star. I don't know how it works, but years rated, and it's just good, authentic Thai food with awesome service. Colipe.
Something people often get wrong about you.
Ooh, something people often get wrong about me. I would say that two things. One, that I'm this like big extrovert, and two, that I'm super, super confident. So not I'm an extrovert as in like I'm a social gal, like exhibit A, we're chatting, we're having a great time, and I can go out, but I have social anxiety. So I'm more of a one-to-one kind of gal. And then
Interesting.
yeah, and then the other one in terms of just like being super, super confident, I would say I'm confident enough to put myself out there, but I have to work on my confidence every day to like really show up for work and life.
And we talked about this earlier, but having that, but also wanting to do what you do for a living.
How weird are we? We're so weird. I love it.
We're so weird.
I embrace it. Yeah.
The last TV show, movie, or book you watched or read and loved.
The Studio. We just watched the first two
What is
episodes
that?
of The Studio with Joe Rogan or Seth Rogen. Duh. Seth Rogen.
Where is that?
It's the Apple TV Plus series that he just launched. Was it last week? I think it was last week.
Oh,
And it's about he is a studio executive. So it's just the inner workings of yeah, of like the movie production life as a film executive. So great so far. First two episodes, highly recommend.
my Apple TV got disconnected about 30 days ago. So that is why I am clueless. But I'm going to reconnect it and I'm going to watch it. That sounds
It's
amazing.
so good. Yeah, you'll like it.
A snapshot of an everyday, ordinary moment that gives you true joy.
A snapshot of an everyday moment that gives me true joy. Honestly, I would have to say just like my first coffee with my husband and my dog, our dog. That's it. Like, and
Simple.
it's so simple, and especially on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, we usually are able to do this. That first coffee we just have in the living room together, and we just listen to a record, or we just journal, and it's just the three of us. Right?
Chef's kiss.
That's it.
One thing you're deeply grateful for right now.
This conversation.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to spend a Sunday morning. I love it. Thank you for this.
Thank you. That makes me so happy.
So lovely.
If you could switch lives with one person for a day, who would it be?
You know what? I'm like, now that I really think of it, if I could switch lives with somebody for a day, it would be my grandmother. It'd be my grandma.
Oh,
She has been in a nursing home for well over 10 years. She's 94 right now. And the
oh
last
my
time I saw
goodness.
her was kind of similar to one of the previous times is she really dislikes this chapter of her life, and she really dislikes where she lives, understandably so, but without knowing what she really like she how she truly feels and how she truly lives, I can't really feel that pain. And so I love her so much. I think I just want to understand her lived
More
experience more. So I would say
understanding.
my grandma. Yeah.
Wow, what an amazing answer.
Yeah.
Last question.
Hmm.
If you could go back in time to when you first started your career, what piece of advice would you have given yourself?
This is super cheesy, but I actually think about this quite often. Trust the process. Because if I really did trust the process, I'd probably
Mm-hmm.
be a bit more confident every day. I'd be a bit less worrying every day. Like I don't think my mental health would be just a bit better day to day. So
Yeah,
trust
I
the
think that is
process.
so much easier said than done, though.
I
You know,
know.
even
I
looking back,
know.
if we would have tried to trust the process, but the way that we are engineered, we're people that just want to, like, we want to make it. We want to go for
Yeah,
it. We
we
want to
do.
do it.
And we want
And
control.
yeah, so I see what you mean, but man, it would be
It's a
hard
big
to
ask.
implement that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big ask, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
would
but we
say
do. We do
try
need to
to.
we do need to stay present and try to live in the moment and trust that it's all going to work out.
Steph, you just nailed it actually. That's a good one too, is like really just enjoy what's happening in the moment.
Mhm.
Especially when you're freelancing or you're self-employed, it's very much to look at the next client, the next job, the next task, the next deadline without really appreciating what you're currently tasked with doing, what you've currently achieved. So I would say, yeah, that's a good one, is being more present and celebrating all the wins, even if it's a little
Mm.
win. Yeah,
Even if it's
celebrate
a little
them.
win. Bridget, this has been amazing. I thank you so much for
Oh.
coming on. Where can people find you and follow you? Tell me the details.
People can find me on social media at Brigitte Truong or bridgettetruong.com.
And do you always go by Be True?
Be- those are my initials, yes. But I on social media, if you type in at Brigitte Truong, as that's where you'll find me. And then Homegirl Nation podcast.
Does anyone call you Be True?
Yeah, all the time.
I
All
love
the
it.
time.
I love it.
Yeah.